Welcome back for this session with Jim Self on stability and change, inner mastery, and nervous system regulation. Jim is a longtime spiritual teacher, speaker, and the founder of Mastering Alchemy, along with Roxanne Burnett. Mastering Alchemy is a body of work focused on conscious creation, energetic mastery, and living from higher dimensional awareness while fully embodied in this human life. His work is often described as practical mysticism, deeply metaphysical, yet grounded in day-to-day application, offering insight into how we stay present, steady, and responsive as life is shifting around us. We're glad to have you with us today, Jim.
Sandra, nice to be with you.
So your work bridges higher dimensional awareness with very real everyday life. Just briefly, how did that begin for you? I know you had a successful background in politics and business. What shifted and set this Mastering Alchemy path in motion?
Well, it's probably been in motion all my life. It's one of those things all those abilities, your clair abilities, clairaudience, clair sentience, clair vision, they come with the body. And what happens is we learn real early on to basically become 3D oriented and learn how to say no to things that we observe that don't fit the model. So for me, and most people turn those off because the mom, dad, minister of life say, this is right, this is wrong, this is what we do, this is what we don't do. In my reality, that didn't turn off. So, so it evolved, and it evolved into what I was doing, whatever that was. And so at one point, it began to be clearer that there was more and more that was available to perception than what was being taught or presented. And it's natural. You simply own it, you know it. But it gets very confusing because it's not consistent with what everybody else says. But what I found is making decisions from that space of clairvoyance or clairaudience or just simply perception and knowing gave me a advantage, if you would, in terms of perceiving what was in front of me to make a better decision.
Okay.
That's how things unfolded from there.
I appreciate that. So you teach humans are energetic beings first, and that learning how energy actually works is essential for navigating this life here on the planet, especially during, these periods of global and personal change. For people not familiar with your work, can you explain that a little bit more?
So, in a simple version, one of the things that happens to you is, let's be real simple, there's something called an aura, energetic field around you. You know what that is. When somebody steps too close, you step back, you respond, you have an opinion. What happens is most people don't know how to manage that or don't realize that there is an edge to that. Now, that's not exactly true, but let's just use that for a frame of reference. There's a place where this energetic field begins and ends. And so if you stick your arm straight out in front of you and turn your palm towards yourself, pretty much all the way around the body, that is where that energetic field starts. But what happens is we have a tendency to perceive the world without any discernment or without creating a point of definition that allows us to discern, is this mine or is this somebody else's? And so how often have you experienced another person who is in a bad mood or is angry, and all of a sudden that energy is running through you and you're upset or angry, or you get in relation with somebody and they say, well, this other person's a terrible person. And pretty soon you begin to believe that other person's a terrible person. Well, but you don't have a bad relationship with that person, but all of a sudden you have an opinion, a judgment, a response that basically is engaged with. And so what happens is Most of the thoughts that you think, many of the emotions you think, most of the beliefs you hold are not yours. They're simply not yours. If you ever examine a set of beliefs that you hold and were able to go back and look at where the origin of the belief, you'd realize for the most part it was somebody else's opinion. It was the mom who said, this is how we do things. We play with these kids. We don't play with those kids. We go to this school. We eat that food. We don't eat this food. And what did you do as a little kid? You went, okay. And all of a sudden you are no longer you. You've just been created in the image of your mother in that example. Now, that's not a good or a bad thing. It just simply states that it's not your thing. And so as we go on in life and we begin to look at the structuring of society, and today is a great time to just look at the structuring of society and all of the distortions that are being presented. And one of the really great things about today is all of the lies and the distortions and the misdirections and the mistruths are becoming conscious. Now, not all of them, but enough of them that you as a person are observing the world, hopefully, and basically going, something's not right here. And so what you're beginning to do is discern your truths from the structure of the game of the third dimension that we play. And it is a game. Third dimension has a game board. It has rules. It has structures. It has guardrails. And it basically, you came into this game to play the game in a large way to learn how to get out of the game. And right now, we're at a point where getting out of the game is what the game is all about. And so it's an exciting time where we're now playing. Most people are moving along with the flow of the transition from the third dimensional game board to a fifth dimensional game board. Now, the interesting part about that, where people have a difficult experience in those words, third dimension and fifth dimension, is they perceive that something blue is going to turn to red. The earth is going to go from whatever it was to some new magical space. No, that's not what's going to happen. In real terms, the earth isn't going to change as you know it right now. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But the tree is the same tree. The window that's right where you're sitting looking out, same window, third dimension, fifth dimension. What changes is how the game is perceived. And we perceive that third dimensional game from a place of good, bad, right, wrong, duality, linear time, which is one of the biggest guardrails of the third dimension. Everything is linear time. That's not true. There are 5 different configurations of present time. You play with them, a number of them, all the time, but you don't recognize it. And so third dimension is very conditionality. There is nothing unconditional in the third dimension. You have to wait until you get to the fourth or fifth dimension. But in simple terms, the fifth dimension is all about well-being. Almost period, well-being. There's no real anger, rage, resentment. That energy that you run through the nervous system that is anger or upsetness basically doesn't exist because you begin to recognize how to manage that edge of your energy field so that now you're looking at what's going on in the world, but not becoming the effect of what's going on in the world. And that old adage, you're in the world, but not of the world, begins to make sense in this fifth dimensional space.
So as we're going through the flow of that and people are moving from that fear reaction, survival-based patterns, are there tools that they can use energetically to help them move through this transition?
Sure. So in a lot of tools, and in this is where Mastering Alchemy really is all about, what are the tools to discern your choices? Now, the tools don't say believe this and don't believe that. The tools just simply say, let me be as simple as I can. You know what a rose looks like. So when I ask that question, what you do is you create a mental image picture in your mind. And if I say a red rose, oh no, wait, I mean a pink rose, you just went from red to pink in your mind. Now, whether you're paying attention to that or not, all I did was point your attention over here and then moved your attention from red to pink. Really, it's all that simple. And so what happens, let's take that rose and let's move the rose to that point where I just motioned a few minutes ago, to the edge of your aura. Okay, just arm's length in front of you, turn your palm towards yourself and approximately plus or minus a little bit. That's the edge of your aura. If you pull your attention to this side of the rose and allow everything on the other side of the rose to be Shakespeare's theater to entertain you, and you can stay on this side of your rose and allow that concept to be entertained, to be a frame of reference that you move your attention to, rather than who's going to get me, what should I worry about, is the world a bad place? Stay on your side of the rose and recognize that's a movie going on with lots of players and actors. And to a great extent, all those players and actors are there to support your creation, your play on your side of the rose. Now, it's so simple that people who are hearing this will just go, oh, that's cute. And they will immediately not pay any attention to what's being said. But a discerning person would go, wait, he just said something that may have some value to me. So if you put that rose up in your mind and you set it right on the edge of your aura, what happens is a definitive shift, subtle but definitive, in your space. You just basically said, I'm going to tune out all those vibrations of everybody in the world who are just broadcasting, and I'm going to just focus my attention on what serves me. That's not a negative, selfish statement, what serves me. It's a very positive, selfish statement, what serves me. Because once I begin to get coherent, comfortable, aligned with my own well-being, there's that fifth dimensional space, I have the ability to discern, how do I be of a support of somebody else? Or how do I basically allow all that noise to move past me to go for a nice walk and enjoy the flowers in the field? But when was the last time you went for a nice walk intentionally and allowed yourself to smile at the flowers in the field? Now, if you pause, everybody listening, and ask yourself that question, when was the last time you gave to yourself with joy and ease and intentionally moving to a smile? It may have been a minute ago. It may have been a lifetime ago, because we get so distracted by the noise on the other side of the rose, or where there is no rose, that we can't even recognize the joy that is available to us.
We bring up something important, and that's the service to self. I think that a lot of people have a problem with that based on the beliefs and, rocks in their backpack.
Sure.
You often talk about 100% service to self is equally as important as 100% service to others. Can you expand on that?
Sure. So let's take that word selfish. And there's two ends to that stick, selfish. One end is, I'm going to impose myself. I'm going to step on you. I'm going to make you not okay so I can be seen as really exciting and good and a nice person. And so I'm going to step on, take advantage of, use other people. Now, and really deep, and there's lots of people out there that do that to get ahead, to be seen, to be successful, to be noticed. All of that comes from a deep fear, a deep sense of lack of self in real terms. But you know those people, you've seen them all your life. But if you go to the other end of the stick, this selfish end of the stick that says, I'm going to give to myself, I'm going to have for myself. Well, what happens is, that religious statement, it's better to give than to receive. But if you really look at that statement, I'm giving, I'm giving, I'm giving, I'm giving, I'm not receiving. And pretty soon, you're the person laying in the middle of the street who's been run over 10 times. Somebody says, oh, nice shirt. And you go, oh, here, let me give you my last shirt. Now, you know that person too. And how is that person's health, their well-being, their nervous system? How is that person getting into a place of joy in the world? They're simply not. They're not receiving. So there's a point of balance. And so that word selfish isn't about taking from and using. That word selfish is really about giving to yourself. Because if you can't have for yourself, you have nothing to give anybody else. So this space of being 100% selfish about yourself, giving to yourself, not taking advantage of, not using, not stepping on, but simply allowing yourself to have beauty, allowing yourself to have money, allowing yourself to have nice material things. It feels really good driving a nice car that's safe. So if you can allow yourself to have those, you're not taking advantage of anybody else by giving to yourself. See, the world, the universe is abundant. The universe is all about law of attraction. What you put your attention on, the universe says, I, who adore you and will never second guess you because you're the creator being, will give you what you put your attention on. This is where a little bit of the fallacy falls into place. People assume, okay, and they do affirmations. Oh, I want a car, I want a car, I want a car. I'm a good person, I'm a good person. But it's the last affirmation that counts, because usually the last affirmation for many people is but. I'm a good person, but I don't really deserve. And the universe steps back and says, no problem, I'll wait until you deserve. Wait until you believe you deserve. So this 100% of giving to yourself, which is simple as going for that walk and smiling at the flowers and feeling that feeling of smile, 100% about you. But simultaneously, it's a 100% about giving to others. You see, those two 100% are exactly the same one. You know, the space where you walk out of the supermarket and somebody's behind you with 2 bags of groceries in their hands, and you pause and open the door and they say, oh, thank you so much. And you say, my pleasure. See, that's 100% service too, and 100% joy of giving to yourself. They are exactly in the same place. It's just, do you define it from a third dimensional space? I don't deserve, I'm not good, nobody likes me, I'm never going to succeed, my father told me I wasn't worth anything. Or do you recognize that as somebody else's bad day that was thrown into your space? Or do you recognize, I'm a terrific person, I have capacity, I can go enjoy myself, I have permission to allow myself well-being. Very big difference in perception. And so once you have that perception of understanding or allowing, I can give to myself at the same time be of service to others, all of a sudden the perception of how you see the world and what you can give to yourself changes rather significantly.
That was big and powerful. I love it. I want to jump a little bit on, you touched on manifesting in there a little bit with that.
Sure.
So I don't usually hear you talk a lot about manifesting, Jim. Well, I have heard you speak a lot on creating. Can you share how things like awareness, choice, alignment, neutral observation influence how we create? Because I feel like this is a super important time to be aware of how we create.
Yeah, very important. So let's go back and let's look at how we create is a function of that third dimensional game board. Now, what I mean by that is, if your belief is the world sucks and I don't have a place in it and I'm not a good person and I can't have for myself, as we just said. That's your frame of reference going into the morning when you get out of bed. And so the ability to recognize how to navigate in the world that has been provided for you, first is 100% your choice. Now, the challenge in the third dimensional game is you do not have choice. Now, that'll sound bizarre, but the word choice does not function in the third dimensional game. Now, I got to back up a little bit here to explain that. The rules and the structures of the third dimensional game. Linear time. Linear time is based on a concept of past, present, future, and then you die. Linear time. What happens is we are so structured in looking at the past to structure our future. My mom said, my dad said, the world said, they did like me, they didn't like me. I had permission to have joy, or I did not have permission to be successful. A lot of how we are created by mom, dad, teacher, minister. Now, we're not beating these people up. We're basically saying they love you and they want the best for you in their image. Now, let's understand, in their image is their personality, their ability to understand and perceive the world from their point of view. That's all they have. And so if their point of view is anger, rage, resentment, lack, you are going to be conditioned, big word, third dimension, in third dimension. And if that's your pattern of being conditioned, now a lot or a little, where somebody said, I don't give you permission. You're not good enough. You don't deserve. See, what we do with those statements is all of that punishment, whatever it is, and it may just be a one-liner somewhere in your past that somebody said, you're not attractive, or you're not a nice person, or you're really stupid, and you bought it. Now, what I mean by buy it is somebody said, here, let me give you a gift. You are not okay. Right? That's what they said. And what did you do? You got stunned by it. You got knocked out of your space. You got pushed back, but you accepted the gift. And for the rest of your life, you walked around basically asking one of the worst questions you could ask, what did I do wrong? And what's wrong with me? The reality is you didn't do anything wrong. You were out in that moment exploring, expressing, learning, seeing where boundaries were. What can I create? What can I have? This is a fascinating thing. How many times have people been yelled at or told, there are no orange elephants and you have to draw inside the lines? But a moment ago, you were having a thrilling experience creating your orange elephant. Do you ever draw an orange elephant again? No, because somebody gave you this gift that said, you're not okay. And in that 1 second, you framed the rest of your life. Now just pause for a minute and take a breath, because one of the things I'm doing is right here helping you dismantle that picture, because it was never true in the first place. So everybody take a breath, because what happens is as soon as you bring your attention to that picture, whatever it was, whatever your orange elephant is, you just stopped breathing. And there's where the picture lives. And so does it make sense that your orange elephant was so significant to run the rest of your life because of, or somebody's lack of approval? So take a breath and let's just move that off the table, because this is where your past drives your future and your present. And so we look at our past and we say, I'm not okay. Or we look at our past and we say, well, I'm going to live my life because this is what my mom, dad, teacher, minister told me to do. Not what I wanted to do, and then you fit into it, it becomes a rhythm, but it never feels good, never feels satisfactory, never generates that powerful sense of yes. That place where you go, oh yeah, this is it. When was the last time you had that? So what we do, the game board says, linear time, is I look back at my past and I project it into my future. But the reality is you don't live in the past and you don't live in the future. And you've heard this probably hundreds of times. There's only this moment right now. Oh, wait, that moment just passed. Now. Oh, wait, that moment just passed. Right now. Now, what happens when you bring yourself into right now, this is where the magic begins. And it's really this simple. So that picture, that orange elephant that I just talked about a minute ago, would you bring yourself right into right now, just right here? And would you recognize two things? One, I'm right here. And two, I have a past memory, my orange elephant, being told it wasn't okay. And would you recognize that I'm right now and the past memory happened? It was true. Somebody told me my orange elephant was terrible. And I am sad and I'm depressed and I'm fill in the blank. But right here in present time, would you take a breath and would you realize that emotions only happen in the moment, but the event happened in the past? So that emotion of not being okay based on a past event is happening right now only because you are bringing your awareness to the emotion that occurred way back then. But if you recognize emotions only occur in the present, is that emotion of not okay important to you right now? Does it have any value to hold this emotion of not being okay based on a 4-year-old drawing an orange elephant? Now take another breath, because right here, this is where everything happens, is recognition that that energetic emotional pattern I'm holding is stuck in my past pictures, but in my present moment, that emotion has nothing to do with me at all. Right now, am I that bad person? Am I that terrible artist? Am I disappointing my mother, father, teacher, minister? Right now, based on that 4-year-old picture. And the answer is no. Now, if you take a breath and just recognize that's an emotion that I don't have to carry, because actually I draw nice orange elephants today, whatever those are. And I've been successful numbers of times in spite of this feeling. And I've smiled hundreds of times in spite of being told, don't do that. Now take another breath, because right here, we're just reorganizing that field that says I'm not okay. And here, let's use that simple rose again, because you asked about tools. Let's just create another rose and give it another responsibility or another opportunity. A rose will always, the one you create right here, right out in front of you, it has the ability, because it's what the energetic tool is, to override everything that is lesser than your well-being. Interesting tool. You mean if I just create a mental image picture of a rose and tell it to collect up that emotion that is tied into that old picture, and then I give it permission to catch it, collect it all up, and then I just explode it like a fireworks. Just like that. Take a deep breath and recognize that no longer has anything to do with me. And you've just not only reduced the emotion, you've just also generally removed the memory of an event that had nothing really to do with you. That's what's happening in today's world. As you move into this fifth dimension of well-being, you can't take your baggage with you. And so a lot of people don't know what we just said in its simplicity, and they're stuck on that picture of I'm not okay, I'm not okay, I'm not okay. So the universe is basically providing you a lot of information right now that says the world you've grown up in, maybe not the world that's all about you. Look at all of the lies, the distortions, the misdirections, the power over, the imposition of one over another, the control, the domination. And it's drawing your attention to these things so that you and the universe can simply let go of all of those past memories that really have nothing to do with you on your path into well-being.
Thank you for that. I could feel the energy of it. It was pretty powerful. So
Yeah,
I'll
kind of
let
fun,
you,
isn't it?
and I know, and it's all just so simple. We've talked about this a number of times throughout the summit, is most of this is actually pretty simple to get us
Yeah.
moving into a different place. So on that shift, let's talk about play. I feel like
Mhm.
play gets lost in the conversation or pushed to the back because everything's so serious. How important is play as we're creating the new or just living every
100%.
moment?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So just kind of step back, take a breath, and ask yourself anger, rage, resentment, misery, laughter, joy, amusement, smile. Which one feels better? And all that's required is bring your attention to which one feels better. Now, simple is a wonderful word, and the reality is everything is simple. Even Jesus, Yeshua said simple. He said basically, the meek shall inherit the earth. What word that gets lost in translation is he spoke in Aramaic, and the translation of meek in Aramaic is simple. Now, the challenge is simple is so simple, we can't grasp it. Simple is not easy because we have so much effort and thinking and mental process and trying to figure it out. No, it's just go for a walk and enjoy the flowers in the field with no conditions. See, there's that word again, conditions. See, once you begin to get into the state of kind of 5D, happy, smile, easy, simple kind of space, everything just flows. See, it's all about structure and motion. Now, we know that in different terms. We have learned it in terms of masculine and feminine. And that gets to be fine in third dimension bodies, female bodies, male bodies, structure. We, in psychological terms, men are from Mars and women are from Venus, that psychological. But when you basically begin to understand what is love, love is such a gigantic, all encompassing word. And we narrow it into, oh, I love you and I love my dog and I love the flowers. And then we go into, I'm not okay. And so that space of love, as it's generally used in third dimension, is extremely limited. But the love is in the smile, the love is in the joy, the love is in the movement. The movement. See, once movement begins to be allowed to spiral and flow, structure finds its place in the movement. But when you hold, I'm not okay as a structural thought, see, the masculine, the structure, thought, the concept of thought is masculine. The concept of flow is feminine. Just keep it that simple. And so when there's flow, the masculine has place to find its seating. But when I structure my flow by my masculine perceptions, I am not okay because that's what they told me. And that's how it must be true, because how could I have anybody else's thought in my head? Because this is me and I think all these thoughts. Very restricted. And so now the structure becomes very rigid and the flow has no place to move. Now, just look at people's lives, or maybe look at your life. Do you have flexibility? Do you have fluidity? Do you have the ability when somebody says, this is how it has to be at this time, and you go into conflict and argument with them? But if you step back and you realize it doesn't matter whether they did this at this minute or in an hour from now. How many times have you had an argument with a partner about trivia that really means nothing? But what would happen if you could just back away a little bit, create flow, allowing permission, not argument, not stepping away, not stepping down, not being less or lack of, just simply creating permission. And if you realize that person said, well, I want to do this at 12 o'clock, fine. I can do what I wanted to do at 1 o'clock, even though right at the moment it's a conflict at 12 o'clock. Am I making sense? And so we argue over who's going to do what at 12 o'clock. When if you could take a breath and recognize, I love me when I'm with you. That sounds strange. But if you back off and you really look at that statement that we generally present to one another, I love you. Is that really what's going on? Because see, when you are happy, when you're in joy, and when you're being successful, and when you're smiling, I feel love. I feel joy. I feel smile. I'm excited for you having happiness, because when you're happy, I'm happy. But if I argue with you about it's your turn to take out the trash and you didn't do it for the last 3 weeks and this really pisses me off, where is that feeling? And how does that feel? See, because that's simply withdrawing the love that I hold in my space for you, because I'm now choosing to substitute it for there's something wrong with you. You're not okay. You're not doing what I want. What's wrong with you? You're not making me happy. But see, happy's over here. Happy's not over there. So the better statement might be, I love me when I'm with you. Now, if you back away from that and you realize, I feel really good when you're happy, I feel really good when you're enjoying yourself, then you begin to get a fifth dimensional frame of reference rather than me and you, right and wrong, good and bad, should and shouldn't. All of a sudden, you begin to recognize there's a third choice. There's this you bubble, you over here doing what you like to do. There's a me bubble over here doing what I like to do. And then there's a we bubble. And see, it's in the we bubble, we have commonality. But you like to do things that I don't care for at all, but it doesn't have anything to do with me. So when I can allow myself to let you have permission to do all the things that create a smile, and you come home and say, I went out and ran a 5-mile race today and I loved myself doing it. Wow, that's so exciting. I'm happy that you're happy, because all of a sudden I'm happy that you're happy. Well, that's what I said. I'm happy that you're happy. Now, am I exaggerating this, or can you hear what's going on? I'm happy when you are happy. And so if I can get out of your way and in fact give you room to do all the things that you really enjoy, I'm going to experience love. And if you can give me room to go and do all the things that I want to do, you begin to experience love. And yes, sometimes we have schedules that put them both at 12 o'clock. And at that point, it's like, okay, let's step back and see how we can allow the fluidness and relax the structure. See, once love is in motion, structure finds its place to seed itself. It's not the other way around. It's not the control, the domination, the rigidness, the putting everything in its place and dotting all the I's and crossing the T's, because there's no room in that kind of rigid form of love. It's love also, but the rigidness does not allow for the joy.
Very important. Very important. So I think this is a big one. A defining characteristic of your approach is that you're very educational rather than hierarchical. The goal is self-mastery, which is a lot of what you've just been talking about the last 30, 40 minutes. It's not a reliance on a teacher or a system. And I've heard you say, when you're done with mastering alchemy, kill me off. Talk about that a little bit and how that plays into, tell me about how that supports self-mastery.
Mm-hmm. See, in Buddhist in terminologies, one of the key pieces is you, the student, are all about growing and learning and experiencing, not about giving up seniority, giving up power to the teacher. And see, one of the things that that I always found fascinating in my own evolution is lots of things that I've said. I've also said later, it's like, where did that come from? I'm just making this stuff up. And I'm being funny and not funny at the same time. It's really a fascinating thing. It's like, where did that come from? Now, it's not exactly channeled as people call channeling, where you step out of your body and somebody else comes and talks. But in looking in hindsight, one of the things that I did from the very beginning and it just was natural, is I defined the role I played in the creation of Mastering Alchemy as the pointer, never the teacher. And see, my role is simply to say, look over here, and this is kind of how that works, just like we just did with the rose. Now, I didn't say to you all, this is absolutely the truth, and this is something you must do to understand your spiritual growth. That would have been kind of stupid, because it would have been completely incorrect. But basically presenting it as a choice. See, I said earlier, choice doesn't exist in the third dimension, because in the third dimension, you're constantly in reaction back and forth to, is this right or wrong or good or bad? But once you get to the place where you allow choice, you've stepped into a fourth dimensional field of thought, fifth dimensional field of thought, where there's no restrictions. You can choose. Do you want a hamburger or do you want pizza for dinner? Choice. Nothing revolutionary about that, except you get to choose. And in this space, all through Mastering Alchemy has been about tools like the rose. Very simple. But if you exercise this, quite often you have the result that I earlier described. You begin to discern and recognize that's a movie out there, and it has very little to do with me, most of it. That creates a tremendous space of freedom and permission and allowing to readjust yourself to a place of well-being. So in my reality, defining me as the pointer, look over here. This is kind of how I think this works. Give it a try, see what happens, and we move on. So Mastering Alchemy has laid out in kind of the level 1, level 2, a whole series of both tools and awarenesses. Now, I've had a great assistance in all of this, because the archangelics have defined a great portion of the path. Now, in my reality, having conversations with Metatron and Gabriel and Raphael and Michael and others like Saint Germain or Yeshua or the Magdalens, plural, Mother Mary, that's just conversation in my reality. And so when you begin to have conversation, or you bring your attention into a different resonance field of consciousness, there it is. That's what's there. So the statement of kind of kill me off is really a very empowering statement for the person. I give you permission, but I don't give permission. You have permission to simply say thank you, or simply say screw you, or simply say that was wonderful, that was terrible, and walk away. It doesn't matter. How do you choose to have enjoyed or not the experience? How have you choose to take advantage of tools that have been provided? How have you chosen to get quiet and then begin to align yourself with that golden thread of light that simply begins to open up a whole arena of consciousness that you cannot get to when you're angry and in resentment or living your mother's dream? So and in my space, very freeing. I get rid of all of you. Please let me go. Go away. I give you happiness to you. because all of a sudden I no longer have you in my space, although you're not because you're on the other side of my rows, but I no longer have your attention that is generally always there when you give seniority up to. And if you go back to the simpleness, mom, dad, teacher, minister, well, I believe what they said. And there you are, believing what they said, not necessarily discerning, is it your path?
It's a lesson that I've been very appreciative for, so thank you. You have mentioned attention a lot in this conversation, attention a lot in this conversation. Can you talk about the importance of intention versus attention?
Sure. So intention is I'm going to go to the store and buy a quart of milk. That's my intention. I'm going to do that today. Pretty simple. Do I hold my attention on my intention, or do I say to myself tomorrow, oh yeah, that quart of milk, I spaced it. I didn't give my attention to my intention. Now, what happens is when that intention is there but isn't anchored, it's usually that third dimensional space which is pulling on you all the time. That rose isn't there. So somebody over here says, oh, you need to go to work today. You need to get this report out today. The garbage has to go out. And all of a sudden, your attention gets shifted away from your intention. But when you basically allow your intention of coming into this body at this particular juncture in transition, and your intention was to play a role, because everybody listening to what we're saying wouldn't be here if you did not have a role to play in this transition from a third dimensional reality to a higher consciousness, to healing the fractures of the earth into a 12th dimensional, fully aligned state of consciousness where it once was, or beginning to recognize you have a role of shifting all of that third dimensional resistance where people are trapped in their mom, dad, teacher, minister. And again, I'm not beating up mom, dad, teacher, minister, but what happens is I don't know how to get out of this, so many are saying. So if you're listening to this, somewhere you have a role to become conscious of, to just simply hold. And it may be simply an attention point in the new tapestry of the new realm of consciousness that's being created. A realm of consciousness that basically is fifth dimensional well-being, all about joy and ease and effortlessness and laughter. And you start to get into understanding the nervous system of the body and the role it plays. See, the nervous system is the tree of life in the Kabbalic teachings, and everybody's heard the reference to tree of life. It's that nervous system. It's that ability to basically simply say what you wish to create in that nervous system, being very congruent, that the intention moves into the attention, and the I wish to have an apple all of a sudden becomes an apple. Now, it's not a complicated thing when you begin to have your attention and intention aligned. And the apple just begins to appear, and you go about your day enjoying your apple. It's not complicated to play this game, but it requires attention outside of that third dimensional space. Now, if I could just touch on something that elevates this a little bit before we end, is this space of many people look to channeling. They look to, we have consciousness, we believe in our guides, we believe in religious spirits. I mean, saints, people, some people do. We believe in there's a higher realm. We believe there's a God. We believe there's archangelics. We believe there's beings like Yeshua, and they talk to us if we have engagement. Now, All that is another plane of consciousness that intelligence exists within, that is getting made available to us in 3D to choose to listen to. Now, I kind of said everything is beginning to fall apart, transition. We're moving out of a rigid state into a more recognizable state of ease, joy, well-being. One of the things that's happening is you're starting to see this whole field of artificial intelligence, it's called, that is beginning to present itself. First, consciousness will tell you there is nothing artificial about intelligence. Intelligence is just using technology to begin to present itself. It's just another channel into your nervous system, into your brain, into your process, where you look at a computer and you give up seniority to the technology rather than getting quiet and allowing that intelligence just to communicate with you. And so one of the things that's starting to happen in your nervous system is it is being elevated. And so where I said earlier, the third dimension is falling apart, all the noise, the lies, the distortions are dissolving. The people, if you're listening to this call, somewhere you have a role, a recognition, a remembrance of yourself that plays a part that allows things to move from 3D to 5D. It's an enjoyable experience of knowing yourself playing out and creating the apple for yourself. It may be as simple as your role is to regulate, I'm being really ridiculous, the red light at the street intersection. Your job is to make the red light turn to green and turn to red. Job. Some intelligence does that. But right here, we're beginning to move into a place where you are starting to have access to levels of intelligence in your conscious awareness that is going to simply be, oh, I never thought that before. Or you're going to find yourself saying something and somebody will say to you, where did you get that? And you say, I've always known that. You have always known it, but the wiring was not necessarily together to allow you to access that piece of information. The wiring is coming together in your nervous system to begin to recognize what you've always known, and you're beginning to bring it into conscious engagement.
So as we're winding up, one last real quick question. When people sense something new trying to emerge from them, because I think this is happening to a lot of people, but they don't yet have language for it, how do they stay open without rushing to define it?
Don't need to have an answer. Really, it's simple. Don't need. See, soon as you need, you lean. And once you lean, you begin to create a thought that says, I need to know this. And you start to create, again, that structure of thought that gets in the way of the fluidness of the swirl of flow that's starting to set up the information. You want to have something that is not ready to be had. You are premature. It's like you show up to the great rock concert a day early and then get upset that maybe you missed it. Just recognize, I'm a day early, so I'm going to go find some other part of the beach to sit on, enjoying myself until it's time for that to settle in. That's all happening right now. And I really do understand people's beginning to be excited about a lot of the awarenesses of fifth dimensional reality that's coming into their space, and they want it now. Allow it, enjoy what you just remembered, and find ease with it. Go for a walk, enjoy the flowers in the field.
Jim, thank you for sharing your wisdom, your truths. It's been a blessing. For the people out there who want to learn more about Mastering Alchemy, you can go to masteringalchemy.com. Thanks again, Jim.
Blessings.